Hi everyone! Today we'll be covering gendered roles in parenting and specifically looking at the similarities and differences between males and females in this area. This is an outline for my presentation. I'll start with a brief introduction before going on to the similarities and differences between males and females. After that, I'll go over the theoretical contributing factors for the differences and the consequences of the differences for children. I'll end this presentation by taking a quick look at non-traditional families and then references and discussion questions. I wanted to start my presentation off by using this quote: "Parenting is undoubtedly a gendered activity." This quote perfectly captures my interest in this area. Parents are one of, if not the most important socializing agent for the development of children, and parenting can be influenced by a range of variables, including one's gender. I wanted to focus on the effects of gender, as gender plays a pervasive and significant role in the formation of one's identity, beliefs, and behaviors. In addition, not only does the gender of the parent matter, but also the gender of the child. However, my focus in this presentation will be on male and female differences in parenting, regardless of the child's gender. Before we move on, I want to mention an important caveat. The research that I present in this slideshow comes from two-parent heterosexual relationships. It doesn't include same-sex couples, nor one-parent households. Looking at the similarities between males and females, three main areas of similarity emerge. First, in a study done by Park and O'Leary and replicated in more current studies, males and females had similar interactions with their infant child. They touched, looked, vocalized, rocked, and kissed their newborns equally. Also, both genders engaged in what is called infant-directed action, as they modified their actions in terms of repetitiveness, rate, range of motion, and enthusiasm. Second, both genders engaged in similar levels of parentese, in that they adjusted their speech patterns. They talked slower, used more repetitions, shorter phrases, and a higher pitch when talking to their children, opposed to non-parent adults. Third of all, both males and females are able to engage in competent parenting, or their ability to interpret and appropriately respond to the cues of their child. For example, in response to an auditory cue, like coughing or sneezing, both males and females adjusted their behavior and responded appropriately to the child. And this makes sense from a biological or evolutionary perspective, because if one parent isn't there, then the other parent will be able to competently look after the child and ensure their survival. Now I'll focus on the differences between the genders, and there are three main areas where the differences are observed. The first area is availability. What I mean by availability is the extent to which a parent is accessible or present to the child. The main difference here is that males spend less time with their children compared to females, and this effect is seen not only in the US, but also in England, Australia, and France. Jung and colleagues found that fathers engaged on average 1.83 hours per day per child aged 12 or younger, and are accessible 3.56 hours per day. These patterns persist across the development of a child as well, as male engagement time decreases with the age of the child. Russell and Russell found that Australian females were available to their 6 to 7-year-old children approximately 55 hours per week, compared to the 35 hours per week for males. However, it's very significant to note that male involvement with their children has increased compared to the past. Lastly, another difference is that females are more emotionally available to their adolescents than males are. The second area of difference is responsibilities, or the role and activities that the parent engages in to take care of their child. The difference in this area includes that females engage in managerial and caregiving responsibilities more than males. Managerial responsibilities include organizing schedules, monitoring homework and school-related tasks, and arranging social contacts. Caregiving responsibilities, on the other hand, include physical activities such as feeding, bathing, and changing diapers. Males in this area are seen as helpers and not responsible parents, and this was apparent as many males describe their role in parenting as helping their wives. The context of responsibility also differs, as females are more likely to be taking care of the child at home and as a task accompanying other activities such as cooking and cleaning. So for females, parenting takes place as a multitasking activity, while males are more likely to take care of the child outside of the home and as the sole activity. Lastly, for females, parenting is an ongoing task akin to work, while for males, they engage in more novel or fun aspects of parenting, such as teaching the child to drive or ride a bike. The third area of difference is the interaction style of the parent. Interactional style refers to the direct contact between the parent and child through shared activities. The difference in this area include that females engage more in caregiving tasks, while males are more often to engage with their children in play interactions. Moreover, the quality of play also differs between males and females, as males engage in physical play, while females engage more in modulated, toy-oriented, and pretense play with their child. This is subject to change across childhood development, as focus on physical play on the part of males decreases and is replaced by verbal playfulness, such as sarcasm, humor, and wordplay in adolescence. However, for females, they continue to engage in modulated and toy-oriented interactions even in adolescence, such as arts, crafts, and reading. And the last difference that occurs between males and females occurs in speech patterns. Females tend to talk more and use more supportive speech with their children, while males talk less but use more directive and informing speech. Now we'll be moving on to why these differences occur, and I'll talk more about the various theories that exist. The first theory we'll be looking at is a biological or evolutionary perspective. In this theory, the basic assumption is that females engage in more parenting responsibilities and are more involved with the child because they're more reproductively invested in the child relative to males. Evidence for this theory comes from three areas. The first is the fact that females have a shorter reproductive cycle compared to males, and thus can have fewer children and are more likely to ensure the survival of those children by expending high caregiving efforts. Secondly, women invest 9 months in gestation length, an investment much greater than males. Lastly, females undergo a variety of biological changes in hormonal patterns that kind of prime them for motherhood. Examples of this are estrogen and oxytocin when nursing. Historically, it was thought that hormones did not play a necessary role in male parenting behavior. However, there's been recent research that has found that males also undergo hormonal changes during pregnancy and childbirth in their levels of prolactin and testosterone, and that these changes may be linked to parental behavior. Specifically, men with lower testosterone were more responsive to infant cues. And one of the things I found quite interesting was that male hormonal levels were closely linked with their partner's hormone levels, not with the timing of the birth. And I thought that was something worth sharing. Next, I'll be talking about the social determinants of parenting behavior. And I've broken this perspective down into two levels, individual and family. On the individual level, there's the age of the parent and maternal and paternal attitudes. With regards to the age of the parent, there's research that shows that the timing of entry into parenthood contributes to parental roles. For example, in late-timed parents, so for parents who became parents at a later age compared to on-timed parents, patterns of parental responsibilities are more egalitarian. Moreover, interaction styles also vary by the parental age. Older males and females engaged in less physical play, and males become more maternal in their interaction style, engaging in cognitive abilities such as reading. In terms of maternal and paternal attitudes, males and females who value their parental role and view it as an important part of their self-identity are more involved parents and engage with their children more. On the family level, maternal attitudes towards paternal involvement can suppress levels of male involvement in child care. In addition, in terms of marital relationship and parental involvement, the emotional and social support received by the female from the male is important in maternal caregiving competence, while for males, those in high satisfaction marriages are more involved than those in unhappy marital relationships. Now I'll be talking about cultural factors that contribute to gender differences. Some of the behaviors seen in Western cultures do not persist across other cultures. For example, the linkage between physical play and males that exist in a North American culture is found in other cultures similar to North American culture, such as in the UK and Australia, but it's not found in other cultures that are dissimilar, such as Sweden, China, and India. In addition, there are differences between African American and Hispanic households and white households. For example, compared to white males, African American males spent less time with their children on a regular basis. However, they assumed greater responsibility for routine care and monitoring of their child. On the other hand, Hispanic American males are more likely to be engaged in caregiving and household and personal care of their child than European Americans. Now that I've talked about what gender differences exist and the potential determinants of these differences, I'll be looking at the consequences of these differences, not only for child outcomes, but for non-traditional families. Looking at child outcomes, there are two main findings. Firstly, the physical play interaction between male and child dyads has been linked to emotional processes such as emotional regulation, risk-taking, and the skill to manage competition. Secondly, there is evidence that suggests that females' verbal style of interaction with their child may enhance the intellectual development of children in various areas such as memory, problem solving, and language advancement. Lastly, I'd like to focus on the consequences of gender differences on non-traditional families. Because males and females bring different qualities to parenting, a question that arises is that would you need a male and a female for successful parenting of children? Well, the research suggests it's more about the specific parental style rather than the gender of the parent. In fact, in a study done by Radin, it was found that boys preferred physical play regardless of the gender of the parent engaging in it. So regardless whether it was their mom or dad engaging in the physical play, the boys preferred it relative to other types of interaction. Additionally, there's research suggesting that in some same-sex couples, the division around childcare may be more similar to heterosexual couples. So in a research done with lesbian couples, they found that the biological lesbian parent is more likely to be taking care of child care and responsibilities, and the non-biological lesbian parent is more likely to be engaging in work outside of the house. However, research on the specific parental styles in these couples is lacking and needs to be addressed before any conclusion can be made. Alright, so now I'm going to conclude with my discussion questions and references. So what are your real-life experiences of gender differences in parenting? Do you find that there are differences between your significant other and yourself when it comes to parenting? Between your family members and or friends? In this presentation, gender differences in parenting were discussed. What do you think happens when the gender of the child is added? What are your thoughts on parent female versus parent male dyad interactions? Would they be similar or different? Lastly, what are your thoughts on single parent households? Would gender differences appear between single fathers and single mothers, or would they be more similar to each other? And lastly, here are my references. So thank you for listening, and I will see you guys in the discussion boards.